Thank you for joining us on the Oakland County Megacast today on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and 88.1 WBFH The Biff. And Ronnie, as you were just saying, such a cold day outside, but you know, it's something we expect in April to have some of these colder days that pop up here and there, a little bit chillier, but considering what we've been through all winter long, not that big of an adjustment. 45 degrees a few weeks ago would have felt like a somewhat warmer day. We'd appreciate the rain over a large amount of snow, but right now, kind of getting that little April showers moment that we always expect to have in this month of April in Michigan.
Well, and if you can stay indoors, it's a good time to do so. We're just getting a notice about Beaumont Health is sending out a warning to the public right now. Tyler, talking about it's nearing capacity as the virus cases continue to increase. So they went from a COVID-19 patient load of 128 patients at the end of February to more than 800 COVID-19 patients being treated at Beaumont health facilities throughout the state of Michigan, reaching this massive surge right now. And this is really getting serious.
Yeah, it is. It's getting very serious right now as we are continuing to go through this surge in the state of Michigan, and we've seen hospital systems continue to have to shut down outside visitation and all of that for their patients, and because they're worried about continued spread of COVID-19. Even beyond that, their beds are at capacity, and they're shifting other operations to be working through COVID-19 because of that. We've heard earlier on in the week from Eric Wallace at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, not a similar situation necessarily there. He said they're doing fine and they're managing as they're going forward, but they have been shifting resources. They are at and beyond capacity and are working through surge programs once again during this pandemic.
So with that, again, Beaumont sounding the alarm, encouraging everyone here in the state of Michigan to continue to take precautions, because I did not have the chance to watch the governor's press conference yesterday. Did you, Tyler? Because I know it got pushed back a little bit in the afternoon.
Yeah, I was able to see a little bit of it. We did get it here live on Civic Center TV. And so on WBTV, we had meeting replays as well as on the radio on Lakes FM yesterday afternoon. It is posted on our website, civiccentertv.com. It's currently on our homepage.
So the governor, again, saying even with the worst COVID case numbers in the country, Governor Whitmer said she is not going to add new restrictions. At this point, the governor urged the use of treatments, including antibodies, for certain patients who test positive for COVID-19. The antibodies offer a promising treatment. Current data does suggest both are likely effective against the B117 variant, which is the most common variant in the country. And also here in the state of Michigan, currently people with pre-existing or underlying health risk qualified to receive the treatments. This includes all seniors, anyone with high blood pressure, asthma, lung issues, heart issues, and cancer. So far, more than 6,600 Michiganders have received these treatments. 65% of the patients feel better within 2 days. Less than 5% require hospitalization following the treatment. That's according to the governor. But again, she is continuing to just encourage people to get vaccinated and follow what we all know for the past year. Stay socially distanced, wear a mat, wash your hands. Same stuff. Avoid large crowds.
It's the same things we've been encouraged to do throughout this pandemic, and yet the governor has said multiple times that this is a compliance, a variance, and a vaccination issue. Well, the CDC has even said in response to the governor calling for more vaccines being distributed to Michigan that we're not going to vaccinate our way out of this surge. And then on top of that, it's a compliance issue. So then with the compliance issue being noted by the governor, if people aren't complying with these suggestions that have been in place, with these precautions that have been urged for over a year, if compliance is an issue, then restrictions may be more useful to be in place. So there is some sort of legal precedence there from the state health department in order to keep people safe and restricting things that allow people to be more social and allow people to be in more close-knit situations. As frustrating as that is, in a surge like this, it's worked before, as frustrating as it may be for the public, and switching all of a sudden to a personal responsibility model when there is a compliance issue that you are identifying as an issue is very questionable.
Well, and she also took a little bit of heat yesterday because the state's top health director took a recent vacation to Alabama, and that's on top of one of her other top aides who went to Florida a couple weeks ago. And what really is concerning to me is we know spring breaks aren't over here in the state of Michigan because, you know, several different districts have them at various times throughout March and April. And so with so many people continuing to travel, that is one of the issues. Now, the governor was saying that, she doesn't monitor what the employees and those in her administration do on their off time, and kind of said, I never put restrictions on people traveling. And some people are, it's not sitting comfortable with some people in the general public right now.
And nor should it be, because, you haven't put Michigan hasn't put direct restrictions on traveling. It hasn't barred people from traveling, but the state government, particularly the governor's office, the Department of Health and Human Services, has heavily discouraged traveling, especially during this surge, unless it's absolutely necessary, and really throughout the pandemic. And then on top of that, you have officials within your administration, within your departments, that are openly violating that suggestion or are not leading by example. And when you have the Department of Health and Human Services director traveling to Alabama, whether it's necessary or not, when you are then telling the people of Michigan, hey, avoid traveling because we need to stop the spread of COVID-19, it really discourages people. If anything, it discourages people from following those regulations because they see leaders doing it and think, well, if they can do it, why can't I? So either travel restrictions need to be put in place to hamper that down, or your people just need to follow the rules that they're putting in place and lead by example.
Well, and of course the governor is saying that this is politics at play here.
Sure.
And we understand that, but you also put out those recommendations.
Right.
Like, it's just like what you're saying right now. I'm not going to put out the restrictions, but there are recommendations. And of course, this comes after Trish Foster, the chief operating officer, went to Florida on spring break with some of her, I believe, her kids as well. And it just doesn't look good. I mean, it's a PR fail. Come on.
Right. And and the governor also made a point, said what her staff does in their free time is not her business. It is, because you are very much in the public eye. You are public leaders. You're making these suggestions for the good of the public, for the safety of the public health, and then you have your leadership that is either ignoring that or thinking that they're above it, whether they're taking precautions or not. And as far as we know, they were taking all the precautions necessary, and the only thing they were doing wrong in this case was traveling while telling people not to travel. But you're telling people not to travel. You're saying that's for the good of the general public. And when people in leadership positions openly violate what they're preaching to the public, it of course only can foster apprehension from the public and saying, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And that doesn't help anybody.
I think when it came to the chief operating officer, people were kind of like, But when it's the leader of your health department, and we should note too, her husband is an elected leader here in the state of Michigan as well. But we know people can work remotely right now.
Sure.
So I guess some reporter out there, the next thing I would do is FOIA. Does she take vacation time or not? The governor didn't answer that yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, if she's doing her work, fine, but still. And you can do work remotely in this pandemic. We've seen that proved in a number of industries, including in leadership positions. But you're leading by example and setting an example that, okay, I can travel, but you, the general public, can't. It sends a bad message, regardless of Democrat, Republican, regardless of if you're following these precautions that have been suggested for a year plus to a T or in part or not at all. It doesn't matter because you're leading by example. And when you're leading by example, doing exactly the opposite of what you're telling the general public, you're going to have a lot more people in the general public doubting or at least questioning whether or not that's necessary at all. And when we're in the middle of a surge of COVID cases here in the state of Michigan, we need our leaders more than ever to lead by example.
And we should note as well, of course, this comes in the middle of trying to get as many people vaccinated here in the state of Michigan. And the halt on the J&J COVID-19 vaccine is going to continue here in the United States. So the pause for the use of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine should continue until more is known about a rare vaccine side effect. That's according to a federal advisory committee. They came up with that decision on Wednesday. The committee will meet again in a week to 10 days to evaluate more data that is expected to become available. 6 women in recent weeks, as well as 1 man in an earlier clinical trial, developed a rare combination of blood clots and low platelet counts within 2 weeks of receiving the J&J vaccine. An 8th case with similar symptoms is under investigation right now. So the advisory committee, they did meet Wednesday to discuss the cases. It can only make recommendations, does not regulate drugs, but its advice is generally considered a gold standard by the agencies. So it could be a while before they start to distribute the J&J vaccine again.
And that's something that we did here on Monday, that we did here earlier on this week from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, that they don't have a specific timeline for how long this pause will go on as they gather this information. It could have been a few days. It could have been a few weeks. They want to make sure that they get this information right and know if this is something that could become more common and is only in its infancy of seeing cases, or if this is something that just hasn't been caught yet, that they need more information to allow primary health care providers and other health care providers to be better on the lookout for. So it's tough to know exactly how long this halt on the J&J vaccine is going to last. Of course, it's going to have a significant impact on the vaccination process because this is a single-dose vaccine. People have been waiting in many cases for this specific vaccine, and the vaccine and any vaccine hesitancy that may arise from this halt, especially even in the case where this is such a rare occurrence amongst nearly 7 million doses that have been administered of this vaccine, it's going to have a large impact across the board.
Because we do know that this vaccine is being used to target some of the people that maybe don't have access to go back and forth to try to get the 2 doses of the vaccine for the Moderna and the Pfizer's, people in the homeless population, or maybe some people that are, stuck at home. They can't travel. And, what if you live, a long way away? It can make it a little bit more difficult. So you wonder how many people will not go back for that second dose if they are getting at least the first dose of the Moderna as well as the Pfizer. But keep in mind, while they are saying so far, this is such a small percentage of people that have received the J&J to this point here in the United States, it is being used and relied on widely in other countries.
Yes, and that's something we need to be thinking about across the board here in the U.S. also as we continue to go through the vaccination process. That simply getting the U.S. through the vaccination process isn't the end of the ballgame. We don't beat COVID-19 just by getting the U.S. vaccinated. This is a worldwide effort, and as we've talked about before with Dr. Russell Faust, the medical director of the Oakland County Health Division, that we are in a race against the clock worldwide to beat these variants from overtaking the power of these vaccines. Whether or not that would happen as we learn more about these vaccines, we're not 100% sure, but getting the whole world vaccinated is a big impact too. So when we have these vaccines that go off the market for safety precautions or for other reasons that may pop up over time, that doesn't just impact us here in Michigan or here in the U.S. It impacts the entire vaccine process and the timetable of this pandemic across the world.
So, Tyler,
yes.
Would you get on an airplane right now?
No, and as I've said before, when you go to the airport and when you're on an airplane, people are at their absolute worst. They are their absolute worst, animalistic, and disgusting possible. So during the pandemic, no.
What?
It's just people are coughing all over. They're disregarding everyone else's space. Nobody cares. They're just wanting to get from point A to point B and get done with it. You're disregarding everybody else. So I would not, at this point in time, get on a plane. Even with the precautions that they're taking in place. And beyond that, I just have no reason to.
Well, a new study says leaving the middle seats open could give airline passengers more protection from the virus that causes COVID-19. Researchers said the risk of passengers being exposed to the virus from an infected person on the plane could be reduced by 23 to 57% if middle seats are empty compared with a full flight. Study released Wednesday supports the response of airlines that limited seating early in the pandemic. However, all U.S. airlines except Delta now sell every seat they can. Delta is going to stop blocking the middle seats on May the 1st. So the airlines argue that filters and airflow systems on most planes make them safe when passengers wear a face mask, as they are now required to do because it's a federal regulation. So while you're not comfortable flying right now, a lot of people are. More than 1 million travelers have gone through U.S. airports each day for the past month.
And that is down still from numbers from the same period in 2019, Ronnie. But it's still a major number, and we're going to see more people continue to fly as this pandemic starts to come to an end. More people get vaccinated, people start to get more comfortable, or at least more pandemic fatigue. And these airlines, especially Delta, that's been taking these precautions more aggressively, really, than other airlines, at least airlines in America. They're coming to an end of their middle seat passenger moratorium on May 1st, which I wouldn't be surprised to see that maybe get extended. But these airlines have been struggling throughout this pandemic, and having those extra seats be filled is huge for the bottom line. And so they've been balancing, or at least they at least outwardly have been saying in their PR campaigns that that's the balance they've had to be making throughout this pandemic is, of course, safety being paramount, but also maintaining that business. So a lot of these studies we've seen on the safety of airline flying during the pandemic with the airflow and all that, a lot of those studies have been done by airlines or the airline industry. So of course you got to always be careful with the studies that you're referencing or that you are trusting and know who's doing them. But at the same time, if the evidence is showing that those middle seats being empty could even be safer, that's something for the airlines to continue to consider if it does still support the bottom line, or at the very least, they need to continue to be extra cautious as they have been throughout this pandemic to keep their passengers safe.
I'm really surprised at how many people I know are flying right now.
So am I.
When you go on social media, it's taking off, landing here. But to me, it's one thing like if you're doing a short trip here in the States, maybe, but for some of these people flying international, and you're hearing these nightmare stories of people that have gone to Mexico for spring break, and once they get there, you have to get a negative COVID test to be able to get on the plane to return home. So for those that aren't, we do, I know people that they failed and they were stuck in Mexico. And by the way, if you get stuck, that's on your own dime as well. So it's a risky time to fly and to travel. So get in your car, stay in Michigan.
Right. And especially as we're getting into the summer months, we get into the warmer months of the year, in the spring, as the flowers are blooming, into the summer, as it's nice and warm. There's plenty to do here in the state of Michigan. I mean, you can go all over the state. You can go north, you can go south, you can go in all directions and find something great to do here in the state of Michigan without having to worry about getting stuck in another country because you may test positive for COVID-19.
Well, the one thing you can't do in Michigan right now is wear shorts
and of course,
soak up the sun.
Well, not today, but it'll be back. It'll be back. It's April. May flowers are coming soon.
It's still usually June before it's that warm. So just as a reminder, you can always find the latest headlines. Just go to civiccentertv.com and click on a coronavirus. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we have a great lineup for you today. In the 10 o'clock hour, we're going to be speaking with the market manager over at the Oakland County Farmers Market. Check in with them, see how things are going as they gear up for the busy summer season. And then at 10:40, Steve Kaplan, the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, will be joining us. That's next here in the 10 o'clock hour of the Megacast.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Finally, I just got my COVID-19 vaccine.
I registered with my local health department and they called me.
I got mine at the pharmacy and my neighbor got hers from the hospital.
I'm not a techie person, so I called the COVID hotline and they helped me schedule an appointment.
Get vaccinated with the first vaccine you can. Protect us all.
Learn more at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Great to have you with us on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. You can always catch us Civic Center TV, Birmingham area municipal access. If you have cable, we are on Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 on AT&T, but you can also listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff, and then today we are also live streaming today's show on the Facebook page of our Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. One of the favorite things to do, go to the farmer's market.
Yes.
Every Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's always great there. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of really interesting selection, and it's just nice to get out and to get out in the community too, and support local as well.
It's been great to see how Oakland County has expanded the farmers market throughout the years. But how are things going right now? Because a year into the pandemic, we've had time to adjust, but we also had hoped by this time we'd be on the backside of the pandemic. Talk a little bit more. Let's bring in Jeremy Brown. He's the market manager for the Oakland County Farmers Market. Jeremy, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good morning, everybody.
So I was by there this past Saturday. Not a big crowd, not a lot of vendors. How are things going, and when do things start to pick up?
Sure. So the market is open Saturdays year round. So January through April, it's Saturdays. Definitely slower in the off season. But we go back to our full schedule of Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday, the first week of May. So May 1st, Saturday. And that's when you'll see all of the vendors coming back and the crowds coming back. Currently, we have probably about a dozen vendors right now, but we'll be up to 30 to 40 when we come to May, and we'll fill all 92 spots. But there's still a good selection here right now. There's some produce, there's early greens, there's microgreens. You'll find syrup. Some of our handicrafters, a lot of baked goods. So there's still things to see and do out here. Our pansies are in right now for the early spring flowers. You'll find lots of succulents. So yeah, definitely slower right now, but things really, really pick up. Come the middle of May, we will see 5,000 to 6,000 people on a Saturday.
In the middle of the season, it can be even tricky getting in there and getting a parking space. So with that, when do you anticipate the return of the big crowds, and what advice do you have for people that maybe haven't been there over the past year?
Sure. So like I said, really May, we really start getting really busy. Of course, Saturdays is our busiest day. If you're going to come on a Saturday, I'd recommend that you come early or come late. So I would come before 8:30 a.m. or come after 11:30, because really that golden hours of 8:30 to 11:30, it's crazy. If you can come during the week, we're open on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday's our slowest day with vendors and customers, but you're still going to find our main growers here. Thursday, we're going to have more of the handicrafters, more of the baked goods. So I'd recommend, if you can, come on a Tuesday or Thursday, but if you're going to do a Saturday, come early or come late. We've also had to make adjustments due to COVID, reducing some of the parking spots, spreading the vendors out, just in an effort to keep everybody safe.
So last year in the springtime, I know it was a big struggle for so many of our local farmers because they weren't able to, get a lot of their plantings in and even finding workers to help them. So what does it look like this year? Do you anticipate they're over that wave and it'll be back to somewhat normal?
We're still going to have all of the plants and the produce that we've had in the past because farmers, they figure all the plants that they're selling this spring, they planted them, 2 months ago. Yes, some of them have struggled with staffing, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be able to get everything you're looking for here. We've unfortunately had a few vendors drop off due to COVID, not comfortable coming, but I think some of the other growers have really stepped up to bring in more product to make up for that, for those losses. But it's funny, last year with COVID, when things first shut down, we were only allowed to sell food. The plants were not allowed to be sold. They weren't considered essential like the food was. And then I believe it was like April 29th, I believe was a Friday, and we got the go ahead to sell plants. And the vendors the farmers were very, very happy because again, they've spent months growing this stuff. And, for them to be told they couldn't grow it, or sell it, that was super tough. But it was that first weekend in May we were allowed to sell the plants. So that was a huge hurrah here at the farmers market. But the farmers are adjusting and they're a resilient group and they're making it happen.
So please tell me the barbecue place is making a return. It
Yes,
smells
they are.
so good when you drive up.
Yeah, they're actually here right now setting up. This will be their first weekend. And it's funny, the farmers, I would say the farmers are the foundation of the market. They really are. But my number one requested vendor is Redwood Grill down there at the end of the market. So they're here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. They'll have pulled pork, chicken legs, sausages. But what's kind of cool is when the produce starts coming in, they'll adjust what they have and they'll make like a vegetable stir fry. They'll get jalapenos from the farmer and make their jalapeno poppers. So they're very much trying to use the products that are here at the market. They're actually very good to us too, in that they cook all the corn that's donated by Prelit Farms and Van Hootie Farms for our corn roast, which this year I want to say it's September. Oh, I don't have it. I do have it in front of me. Corn roast is September 4th. So they've been super supportive of the barbecue people, but it's funny you ask because that is the number one requested vendor here at the markets, funny enough.
So Jeremy Brown with us here on the Megacast. He's the market manager for the Oakland County Farmers Market. The market has expanded so much over the past 5-7 years. How do you find new vendors and decide some of the new things that you're doing? Before COVID, the food trucks were really popular.
Sure. Unfortunately, due to COVID last year, let's take a step back. Parks and Recreation assumed management of the farmers market 10 years ago from the county, which was the facility maintenance and operation people, which was keep the lights on, keep the grass cut, and that was it. But farmers markets they've evolved a lot in the last 10 years. It's a place to come for an educational program, a special event, food assistance benefits, and things like that. But last year, due to COVID, unfortunately, we canceled pretty much everything that we do. Food truck rallies, community garage sales, art shows. Really the only one program we did do was yoga at the market because that's on the grassy area. You can spread people out. But even with all of these activities being canceled, which I always considered added value things to the market, again, farmers are the foundation. But surprisingly enough, the guests still came. There was definitely pent up demand to get out. I think people were, they were cooped up and they were ready to start working on their lawns. So it was good. We also had new people that, they were maybe displaced from their job and have always had a large garden and wanted to just, supplement their unemployment really. And we actually had quite a few people coming that were displaced and needed some way to generate additional revenue. We don't do any advertising for vendors. We're very well established, been around in this location since 1953. Before that in Pontiac since 1922. So we're going on 100 years of history. So we get lots of people that just come to us. But as for how do we choose who participates, farmers always take priority at the market. This is a farmer's market. They have a product that's perishable. They have to come to market. So I'll let an unlimited amount of farmers come, even if there's duplication of products, because there's only so many things that can be grown. But in farmers, that also includes like the maple syrup, the honey people, and the meat people. Those are farmers as well. So it's an open door for them. But when it comes to like the handicrafters, that would be your jewelry people, your photographers, your bakers. You try and limit what you have of that, because you have too many of one thing. It's not good for the ones that you have. For instance, I have 3 meat people right now, and I got an email just yesterday from another meat person. Well, they're a farmer, so I'm going to allow them access, but I let them know the situation. We have 3 currently, and at the end of the day, we've got to have a balance. So it's up to the market manager, myself, and my assistant managers to make that final call. And it can sometimes be tough, but if you have 3 jewelry makers, do you really need a 4th? And sometimes the person that wants to get in can, they can be a little upset, but you just try to explain that you can't have too many of one thing, because then it's not good for anybody. But it can be a challenge sometimes. But we've done really well, even with having vendors gone due to COVID. I think we've made up that difference with others that are looking to generate revenue.
So Jeremy Brown with us here on the Megacast, market manager for the Oakland County Farmers Market. Jeremy, give us a little glimpse into the background of some of the vendors as well, because we do know this is not the only farmers market in town. So is there kind of a shuffling for some of the farmers to try to get into one market versus the other? Or it's better when, I know Birmingham, they have theirs on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the vendors do multiple markets. A lot of the vendors just do the one market because this market is large. Again, we've got a very long history, and we have nearly 200,000 guests that come through this market every single year. So for some, this market is more than enough, but some will do others. I don't know if I'm answering your question for you.
No, you are, yeah.
But some of the background, let's say, we have nearly 100 vendors that use this market throughout the year. About 45 of those are farmers, and the rest are divvied up between the handicrafters, again, the bakers, the metal workers, and stuff like that. Some of these vendors have been coming here since the 40s. A lot of them coming since the 70s. You can go out and see Blue Ribbon Farm underneath the canopy during the summer, and you see the father, the daughter, and the grandbaby all there working. So it's actually, you have farmers that have, and their families have grown up here. They've learned how to handle money, how to work with customers and customer service. It gives me chills a little bit even talking about, the history of these vendors. You have Ralph from Julie's Floral Design. He's been coming since the 80s. He used to be out on the lawn, and he said it took him 15 years to get an inside spot, and he's not giving it up. So for me, it's, I'm the market manager. I built a relationship with these people, and, they really are my friends. It's not like one of our regular parks where people come in, they pay their entrance fee, they use the park, and they're gone. These people are my customers, and they're here all the time. And again, you get to know them. When there's a birth, a death, a wedding, a baptism, what's going on with their families. And, it's great. And I think the farmers have built that relationship with their customers here as well. I have people that come into me all the time, and, they do the old hand thing. I've been coming here since I was this big. And I always go to Greystone Gardens. I always go to Pre-Lit Farms. So they built that relationship with these farmers as well. And it's, there's value to that. There's value to knowing your farmer. I always like to say, do Brian Penzine's potatoes really taste better? Or do I just think they taste better because I know Brian? So there's that relationship aspect of the farmers market. And the guests, they build those relationships with the vendors as well, which is awesome.
Do you anticipate this year is going to be busier? Because throughout the COVID-19 crisis, we have started to recognize and put a little bit more emphasis on educating ourselves here in the public about where our food source comes from. And more people are comfortable buying local now.
Sure. And, last year when the pandemic started, we had a lot more people coming here to shop for their produce, because you are taking out an aspect of the food chain. So whereas normally you go to the farmer, to the distributor, to the store, it's coming from the farmer direct to the consumer. And we definitely saw an uptick last spring, when everything shut down. We also were able to do a drive-through pickup model, which one of our vendors, Milford Spice, she made her website available to all the farmers. They posted all of their products by Friday, and they did all these orders, and we had a couple hundred drive-through pickups every day, which was awesome. But yeah, I think people are looking to come to an open-air market, something a little less crowded at times. Again, it can be busy on Saturday, but I think, just taking out one part of that food chain maybe makes people feel a little bit more comfortable.
Jeremy Brown with us here on the Megacast with the Oakland County Farmers Market. Jeremy, just another minute or two with you here on the show. I know that the market is about more than just going and buying your fruits and your vegetables and your plants. What other programs do you guys have going on?
Okay, so in addition to our Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays market, we will do a Sunday flower market this year. Last year we did a Sunday market as well to take some of that pressure off the Saturday. But we've continued this year with flower sales on Sunday. So if you miss, if you didn't pick up enough on Saturday, you can come back on Saturday and get something. But in addition to that, so we're planning this year's programs and events as if it's going to be a regular year. I don't know if we're going to be able to do all of those things, but so we will be doing yoga at the market. We have a big grassy area to the west of the market, and we can socially distance. So we have local Studio 8 in Waterford. They will be doing the yoga demonstrations, and historically we would have given out yoga mats like loaners, but due to COVID, we don't want people sharing stuff. The first 10 attendees will get a free yoga mat to participate. So we've got that going. We are going to do food trucks, but not the rallies that we've done in the past. We will do on the third Thursday of the month. We will be doing a featured food truck. They will be down there by the grill. So once a month, we'll rotate a different food truck. And then also we do have a food truck rally scheduled for September. I'm hoping that's late enough in the season to where everybody's gotten their vaccine and things are starting to calm down and we feel comfortable doing an event, bringing in a lot of people. So you're still going to find food trucks here. What else do we've got going on? We're going to try and move forward with our community garage sales, which have been popular. We're working with the Kego Art Sale Group to do an art show in October. And then, we still, the Conservation District will be here with some advice on how to care for your lawns. And we're still hoping to have the Master Gardeners here doing their children's activities, as well as MSUE, Michigan State University Extension Health and Nutrition Educator as well, here doing some cooking demos and things like that. But unfortunately, everything is, subject to cancellation just due to COVID. But we're going to continue to try and bring things to the market, do all these added value things that Oakland County Parks has tried to do so much over the last several years.
Well, we're so lucky to have the market in the community and everything that you guys are doing. Plus, by now, we're so used to things getting canceled at the last minute. We go with the flow. But it's a lot of work in planning some of these events as well. So Jeremy Brown with us, Market Manager for the Oakland County Farmers Market. Jeremy, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And one last thing, you can always go to oaklandcountyparks.com to find out all the great stuff we're doing here at the market and the parks.
Great. Thank you. It's oakgov.com as well, right? Oakgov, and then you go to Farmers Market. And with that, because I'm on air, I'm marking the flower market on my calendar as we speak. I usually come in May, and then I have to come back in around the 4th of July because I've killed everything from May.
Oh no. But I can tell you at the end of June, they start knocking the prices down on everything. So maybe, that works out for you.
Exactly. Also, it's like you said, the tip, go at the end of the day.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jeremy, again, thank you for your time. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor will be joining us on the show. This is the Megacast.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping, taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/one small step. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
We want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. As always, you can catch us Civic Center TV, Birmingham area municipal access. If you have cable, thank you. A portion of your fee helps support programming such as this. You'll find us on Channel 99 if you have AT&T 15 on Comcast, but you can also listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. We try to make it easy for people to be able to find us. It's funny, just yesterday, my husband was doing some cleanup, trying to shred a bunch of papers.
Okay.
His shredder went out.
Oh, no.
And it's like the second or third one he's been through. And so he was like, oh, I have to get a new shredder. And I said, well, I think the county has one coming up, or West Bloomfield. Someone has one. Like, you can go to these shredding events. And then I pull up the West Bloomfield Township website, and what is listed but the on-site shredding?
How about that?
Look at that. See? Serving the community. With us now, let's bring in Steve Kaplan, the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, Ronnie. How are you?
We're good. So, hey, the shredding...
And Tyler, too.
Yes, yes.
Hey, with the shredding, is that open to just West Bloomfield residents?
No, we've expanded it to incorporate or encompass Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake.
That's great. My husband will be there. I'm going to tell him to get there early.
Right. So the shredding services are open between 9 and 1, and residents, or also Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake, can bring up to 50 pounds of materials. We prefer that they be contained in white bags. Just makes it easier for the staff. And the good news, Tyler, is the shredding takes place on the premises as opposed to later, if at all.
It's so important right now because we know cases of identity theft are on the rise throughout the pandemic. So this is a good way to get rid of all that old mail and all your old papers and stay safe as well.
Not only that, but sometimes people take advantage of materials and they place them on social media, and it could be some personal information beyond fraud, identity fraud.
So with that, Steve, what else is going on over there in the township? It's been a little bit since we've talked to you here on the show.
I miss you and Tyler. No, we're doing very well. In terms of COVID, 14 of our 91 employees at Town Hall have been afflicted by the coronavirus, but none of them became seriously ill. Ironically, and I won't mention the staff member's name, probably the individual here outside of the fire chief with the most information on avoiding being afflicted, he contracted the coronavirus, but fortunately he was not very ill.
Well, that's the good thing, good news. But you know what's so hard is, so many people, even when you're taking the most precautions and barely leaving your house, you just never know where you get it, and if you get it from someone else or you pick it up at a store or something of that nature. So we're happy to hear, though, that nobody got seriously sick.
Ronnie, if I may mention, and I want to commend particularly our fire chief, Greg Flynn, and you and Tyler already know this, but we've been offering vaccine services at Fire Station Number 1 on Orchard Lake Road. But we do not provide the vaccines. We do not do the scheduling. That's all through Oakland County or Oakland County Health Department. But it has been helpful to residents who have been able to make an appointment where they don't have to travel long distances to receive their inoculations.
And Steve, with that, what's been the feedback from some of the citizens here having that? Because what I like about that one is you don't even have to get out of your car.
Right. No, they're pleased, but there are residents who are disappointed, and maybe they blame Township in part for not being able to provide vaccinations. But as both of you know, through the federal government to the state to the county, that's the sequence. And could we, if we were provided with vaccines, can we adopt such a program, implement a good program? We could, but the county is wonderful, and more people are being vaccinated.
Steve Kaplan with us here on the Megacast. He's the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor. Springtime, right around the corner. We were a little excited with the weather recently until the snowflakes started flying this morning. But we do know springtime usually means cleanup time in the community.
Yes, and we have our Household Hazardous Waste Day. We're holding 2 this year, May 1 and then at the end of September. But the good news is we'll have 3 shredding events. We already discussed that, but the shredding events only involve shredding. So the lines will not be as long here at Town Hall for people wanting to engage in disposing of household hazardous waste materials or gaining shredding services. But our HHW events, our household hazardous waste events, are very popular, and they also include Keegle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard.
That's good. I will say I remember times going over to the library, and it was Hazardous Waste Day, and the line was pretty long. What types of materials can people bring, or should they bring?
Nearly anything you could imagine: paints, chemicals, oils, batteries, electronics, and other propane tanks, tires. So this is the one opportunity where people have an opportunity to dispose of materials that would not be picked up otherwise during the regular GFL pickup days.
Oh, so with that, I'm going to try to convince my husband it's time to get rid of some of those old VCRs, or the 8-track tape deck that's still in the basement.
Well, you're dating yourself. For a young lady, you know about tape decks.
Look, he has something of everything. He's a collector, Steve, and we have like the very first iPods. Remember how big they were?
Oh, yes.
8-track decks, the side-by-side cassette deck that was really popular to make your mixtapes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and you probably remember cell phones from the late 1980s. They were large, gargantuan devices.
So that's good to know electronics is included in that. I'm fingers crossed I can convince him that it's time to get rid of it. No reason to hold on.
Oh, also, if I may, for those people who, because of disabilities, are homebound, for our 2 household hazardous waste days, May 1 and at the end of September, if they would call Town Hall, we can make arrangements for a limited number where we'll pick up the household hazardous waste materials from those residents.
Oh, that's great. That's a great service.
So yeah, we're excited about our shredding day on Saturday.
So we were just talking with the Oakland County Farmers Market. They're doing an event, even though it's scaled down this year, with some of the food trucks coming up this spring and summer. What about food trucks here in West Bloomfield?
Thanks for asking. Chris Darcy, Executive Assistant in the Supervisor's Office, spearheads our Food Truck Tuesday events. They're usually held the 4th Tuesday of each month, and our next one, or our first one for the year, is May 25th. So that's held between 11:30 until 1:30, Tuesday, May 25th. And the specialty food we're offering, it's called Simply Spanish. So that's self-explanatory, but I think our residents enjoy visiting here at Town Hall. and having an opportunity to engage in the Tuesday food truck festivities. And also it helps with the camaraderie here at Town Hall, or I should say our complex, because of course the library and the Parks Commission and the police department are here. And Civic Center TV isn't very far.
So where exactly will the truck be parked then?
The truck will be parked near the Parks Commission, near the smart buses, but we'll be moving the smart buses for the day.
Mark that date, Tyler, lunch.
We hope to see you there.
Food trucks are so popular right now.
They are, and Chris Darcy has scheduled other, I don't remember all the different trucks or types of cuisines, that's the word I was looking for, but some are interesting. And the price is right. You can purchase a meal for $10 or less.
Yeah, and with that too, we know a lot of people are still more comfortable, stopping by a food truck because it's out in the open and out, in the air, rather than going to a restaurant.
Sure, you're right. It's safe. It's outside.
So with that, Steve, what are your thoughts in the recent cases and the surge that we're seeing here in the state of Michigan? How does that impact your job and the job of the others over there at the Township Hall?
Well, it's disappointing that the surge has occurred. It has an effect in several ways. One, you might have residents who do need to conduct work, or they might have to conduct business here at Town Hall who are reluctant to visit any municipality or municipal building. So that's unfortunate. Secondly, especially the 18 to 49-year range, people are sick and many are being hospitalized. So there was great confidence in the area, anywhere in the state, that we were conquering the coronavirus, and now it's reappeared and with variations, but we still are very hopeful. It's only a matter of time, Tyler and Ronnie, this will all be a bad memory.
Fingers crossed, we're ready for this to be just that, a bad memory, because it does kind of feel like it's never ending. And of course, Beaumont coming out with the news today that the Beaumont hospitals are at a critical level.
Right, you people who have scheduled elective surgery might have those procedures canceled or postponed. And imagine that, you set aside the time and you're eager to be better, to have your shoulder repaired or hip replacement, and now it might be postponed, and that's very sad for those folks.
So with that, Steve, too, one thing that I think is one of the positives that's kind of come out of the pandemic, some of these meetings have gone virtual. So it does make it a little bit easier for some people that are at home to be able to attend or kind of dip in and listen as, they're maybe cooking dinner or helping their kids with their homework. Once we get through this crisis, do you think that's going to stick around, or some type of hybrid situation?
Well, sure. Under state law through December 31, 2021, communities can continue to feature the virtual meetings, the online meetings, but that will come to an end unless the pandemic hasn't been surmounted by the end of the year. I think people do like the virtual meetings. It's easier. You can be at home. You can be relaxed. And we have found the attendance is not as great, though, but because we're losing out on some people who'd rather be in person. But because of Civic Center TV, those meetings are available both live or later. And that's of great benefit to our community. So you're providing a wonderful service for anyone interested in watching any of the meetings, including Parks Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals and Environmental Commission and Planning Commission.
So are you guys, as far as the township officials, you guys are still virtual as well, or are you actually back in the building?
No, we're virtual and will continue to be probably through the end of the year unless the numbers recede. My prediction is by October we'll be hosting live meetings.
So we're talking with Steve Kaplan. He's the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor. You guys have really have been doing a good job over there trying to manage throughout the pandemic. Anything, Steve, that maybe we didn't touch on that you want to share with us?
Oh, thank you. So as you know, when you drive around, Tyler and Ronnie, you see garbage on the street, mainly in the ditches and the ravines, the side of the road, and it looks horrible, especially in a wonderful community like West Bloomfield. So what are we doing about it? We don't have any staff members who are assigned to pick up garbage. But what we have spearheaded, and this is May 8th from 9 until noon. We have invited residents to meet at Town Hall right before 9 o'clock, and we'll be going out in groups to pick up garbage from the side of the roads. Pop cans and paper bags and beer bottles, and it just detracts from the beauty of West Bloomfield, Keegle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake. So we're happy that our residents care. We receive many calls here, I would say 3 per week, residents wanting to know, when are you cleaning up the roads? Well, we don't own the roads are owned by the Road Commission. But beyond that, it just looks terrible. It's unsightly, and so we're doing what we can, and if anybody would like to join us on May 8th, just call the supervisor's office.
That is great to know, because, and we do know over the winter months that people who put out the trash early and it's a windy day, it blows throughout the neighborhoods and then it snows on top. So when the snow melts, there's so much trash and debris left. So get a group of people, get a group of friends, have some fun. And Steve, I'm going to put out a recommendation to everyone. Wear long pants and long sleeves, because we were cleaning up the West Bloomfield Trail behind our neighborhood and went in deep to try to get some of the trash. And there are all the, sticker bushes and everything else, and not so fun.
No. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. We appreciate Civic Center TV and the two of you.
Well, thank you so much. We want to say thank you for recognizing that it can be a little challenging more than a year into this for a show that you guys thought was just going to be a couple weeks to continue to book 25 guests each and every week, and to keep it relevant. And but that's the goal here is, the information continues to change, and so that's why we continue to update you. So, Steve, thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much.
We are going to take a quick break, but just as a reminder, so many things going on in the West Bloomfield Township and the community right now. So the best thing for you to do is just go over to the website. They have everything listed, all of the events coming up. That's a good way to stay up to date, especially if you want to get out and volunteer, but also taking advantage of the Household Hazardous Waste Day, as well as Shredding Saturday. So you'll find more information on the township website. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. Still a lot to get to in the second hour of the show.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studio alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. As a reminder, you can always catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. We are live on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, but also if you have cable, you will find us channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. A lot to get to here in the second hour. Coming up around 11:20, we'll be talking with the president for the Keegle Harbor Optimist Club. And then 11:40, Dr. Gerald Hill, the superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District, will be with us as well. So many things happening with the school districts here locally and across the state of Michigan. So we have a lot to ask him about. But first, before we get to the two of them, one of our favorite guests, always so energetic and educational every time we have you with us, Brian Peterson. He's the founder of Bees in the D. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
So for those that aren't familiar, maybe didn't catch our previous interviews, tell us more about Bees in the D's. And we're a year into this pandemic. How are you guys doing?
So we're a nonprofit based in Detroit, thus the D, and we work with bees. So there you have Bees in the D. And our mission is the conservation and education of our pollinators. We mainly focus on honeybees, but we've really expanded to all of our pollinators and a lot of the native bees as well. Yeah, it's been an interesting year with the pandemic. I always like to try to find the silver lining in everything. We've had to cancel a lot of our events, but it has allowed us to do a lot of virtual events and has opened up being able to talk with people from now all over the country, but even the world. I've been a guest speaker for a lot of virtual places in California, even all the way over in London. And so I'm trying to find that silver lining, but boy, do I miss being face to face with people.
I know. What's so fascinating though, we need bees, but for so many of us, we run from them and we're afraid of them. How do you find the love for the bee and convince people to love a bee?
Well, let me first just share that most of the time that you're running from a bee, you're probably not running from a bee at all. You are probably running from a cousin of the bee, a hornet or a wasp, because most bees are actually very docile creatures and rarely want anything to do with you unless maybe you really disturb their hive. But with that said, bees tend to leave you alone if you leave them alone. And so a lot of times the more you react, the more they're going to react. And so we always try to encourage people. I know that's kind of scary when they're buzzing around your face, especially to stay calm. But we try to encourage you to just walk away slowly if something is bothering you, because chances are you may be in its space or you have something that it may like, or you might just smell really nice, wonderful perfume or cologne, or have some food. But yeah, it is a challenge for us to try to clear up some of the misconceptions. And I want to make sure you understand, we respect people's fears. I mean, I have a very bad fear of heights, but I still try to challenge myself with those. So I'm not discrediting people's fears, because it's natural for some of us to have those fears, and that's okay.
So with that, how many times have you been stung?
Everybody wants to always know that. Well, keep in mind, I'm working with millions of bees. And so if you really think about it, with how many millions of bees I work with, the few times that I've been stung is very, it's quite shocking. People expect me to have this huge number because I'm around, one hive itself has 60,000 and we have almost 200 hives. And so that's a lot of bees. But yes, every once in a while I get stung, but I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the times that I get stung, it's my fault because I wasn't careful, or I accidentally pinched the bee and it kind of got scared. So not as many times as you would think, but I don't count.
Brian Peterson with us here on the Megacast. He's the founder for Bees in the D. One thing we noticed the other day on the side of our house, we have a bee hive that is growing. And normally, I will say, before we met you, I would probably take, the hose and spray it down. But now I'm like, no, we might need those bees. What should people do?
So that's a great question. And there are different kinds of hives. So if it is a hive that's forming on the outside of your house, especially if it's kind of gray and paperish looking, those are actually not bees. Those are wasps. And so you may want to remove those, but maybe have a professional do it, just because they tend to be a little bit more, and I don't even like to use the word aggressive, even with the wasp, they're more defensive. And you want to be able to enjoy your backyard. Now, I'm so happy you brought this up, though, because right now is mason bee time, a little bit earlier than usual because we were having some nice warm weather. But mason bees are a native bee that are solitary, and they're looking for little holes and crevices. And a lot of times in brick, they will use that hole, and people think, oh no, bees are taking up, residency in my house or making a nest. They're not. They're actually just looking for a place to lay an egg or a few eggs that will then later emerge. They stop being active around June, and you really can coexist with those mason bees. Or what you can do is encourage them to go towards the back of the yard by getting bee condos that you can get at Meijer and at Home Depot and Costco, which look like a bunch of tubes in what looks kind of like a birdhouse. And that's how those native bees reproduce, but they're not like honeybees that form large colonies. So I would encourage you to make sure you identify or try to identify what insect is making the nest. And we have a great resource on our webpage at Bees in the D under education, under bees, that has like a flow chart. So you can try to help identify the bees on your own, or wasp.
Well, we don't like the wasp, but so when we're going into the spring and the warmer months too, it really does seem past 5 years maybe that there's been so much focus on bees right now and the importance of bees. Why do we need them?
This just brings me so much joy that I joke with people that the bees are the new panda, because quite a while we were really the wildlife World Wildlife Federation was trying to help the panda, and it worked. I mean, people really wanted to help, and now the bees have really come center stage, and for the very reason that you just asked, how important they are. They are so important to our food industry because they are master pollinators, which then create more food for us, which then keeps the diversity of food great, and it keeps the prices of our food lower because there's more supply. They're also very important that a lot of people don't think about it to our ecosystem, because they're also pollinating other plants that we may not eat, but other animals that are a part of the food chain eat. And so they really are foundational to the health of an ecosystem.
It's hard to love them, though.
I don't know. They're pretty cute.
But I'm thinking like that video of all the baby pandas that were, sliding down the slides and rolling and tumbling. Like, I could watch that 1,000,000 times. Bees.
Fair enough. But if you see some of the videos of the bees cleaning themselves off, it's pretty cute. They're pretty fuzzy and cute as well. It's just you gotta get past some of the other thoughts we have about them.
Well, you really have done an amazing job of bringing awareness about bees, and you've been so creative too with coming up with some of these hives throughout the city of Detroit. But we know this past year, like you said, you're a nonprofit. How is fundraising going?
It's okay. We're pretty fortunate that people can sense our passion and they know the importance of our mission. That we're keeping ourselves afloat. But you're right. It's been a little bit more difficult. We haven't been able to do our big fundraising events. But luckily, some people have stepped up. Believe it or not, this sounds really, but on Facebook, you can do birthday fundraisers. Mm-hmm. And more people are choosing Bees in the D for their fundraiser, and not these huge amounts, like thousands and thousands of dollars, but like $100 or $200. And those really start to add up. And we've also been very fortunate that it was an incredible honey year last year. And so we can sell that honey. We have some great partnerships with Detroit City Distillery making a honey whiskey. A lot of breweries, we're going to be adding bees at Founders. And we've done a few beers with them. And so that brings in a little bit of income as well. And all the partners that help with supporting us as well, where we place bees, has really kept us afloat. So we're very fortunate that there's a lot of very giving and supportive people out there, even during these challenging times.
So what is the process for harvesting the honey?
It's so fun. It's sticky, but it's fun. And so what we do is we don't take certain amounts of honey because the bees need that. That's their food. But we're very fortunate that bees are very productive and they make too much honey, or I shouldn't say too much, but more than what they need. And so we're able to harvest the surplus, and that's in the upper boxes. And so we just take the frames and then they have it all capped up in wax. It keeps it preserved, kind of like if we put things in Tupperware. We have to take the lid or the caps off of that, though each little cell, and we use a hot knife to do that. And then we have something that's called an extractor that spins the frames in centrifugal force, throws the honey out of the cells and off to the side. It drips down, and then we can do a light filtering. We don't process it because you want to keep all those wonderful things in it. And then those frames can go right back in the hive and the bees can continue filling it again. It really is magical.
So what is the time constraint on that? Like, is it 6 weeks, 6 months for you to be able to get honey off of that?
Most beekeepers do 1, maybe 2 harvests in the summer season. If it's a really good spring that's got lots of moisture and the bees can bring in a lot of nectar to make into honey, you could do a harvest in the end of June. But sometimes there's just not enough to harvest in June. And usually the main harvest is the beginning of September.
We're talking with Brian Peterson. He's the founder for Bees and the D. I know that you have big plans, one being the Education Community Center. Tell us more about that.
We are so excited. We are hopefully in the final, it got a little stalled because of the pandemic, but we're hopefully in the final steps of working with the Land Bank of Detroit to get quite a few lots. And we've been working with Studio Detroit, which is an amazing architectural firm, and they helped design for us upcycling shipping containers to make a pollinator education center, the first of its kind. And it's going to be right in Detroit. So we're so excited about that. And we want it to not be just for pollinators. We want it to be a community center where people can use it, where there's gardens for people to enjoy. And so we're going to start our fundraising soon for that. We kind of just wanted to put it on hold for the pandemic because it was, people are struggling, and we didn't want to be asking for money at times when people probably were struggling a little bit more, but we're really excited about it. And it will be a great education center for learning more about beekeeping and actually being a center where you can learn about beekeeping right there. So we're super excited about that.
So how much money do you need to raise, do you believe?
Well, that's what's been surprising, because you don't realize how expensive things are until you start diving in and perking the land where there used to be houses and having the environmental studies and then bringing everything in and the construction and all of that. So we're setting our goal at about $500,000 to have everything, that's for everything to get done. So it's quite a lofty goal, but we're optimistic. We know we're going to be able to do it.
But you are so passionate. I can feel the passion through the screen. You must really love bees. How did you even become this passionate?
It was out of the goodness of others. And that's what makes it even more special, that a garden club sponsored for me as a teacher to learn about beekeeping, paid for everything. And it was kind of with the understanding that I would give back and help educate people about bees. So I feel I have an obligation to do this, but little did I know I would love it so much. And so that's a lot of it. And I just know their importance. And a lot of people know my story. The bees were there for me. I call it my yoga. When I was really struggling, going in a hive was just magical for me. And so it's my turn to give back to the bees because they really did give to me.
Well, I'm sure they're quite proud of you, and they definitely, by sponsoring you, got more than their money's worth, because you are educating people all across the world. So what's next, do you think?
Well, the education center is the big thing right now, but we are developing a lot more partnerships, and we're very excited that many cities are getting involved. We've been working with West Bloomfield, but now we're going to be working with Royal Oak Parks and Taylor, and a lot of other communities are realizing that the importance and how we can really coexist with these important insects. And that's exciting for us. So we're very excited about, and we're going to be at the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, which we're very excited about. It's such a beautiful place, and we'll be able to reach a bigger audience with education there as well.
So where are some of your hives, just off the top of your head?
Oh, geez, the list goes on because we're about 60 locations now, but a lot in the city, and it's kind of fun. Like you said, some are on rooftops, like on the Shinola Hotel, the Foundation Hotel. We're on the TCF Conference Center. We're at the Outdoor Adventure Center. We're in some urban gardens. Just so many and wonderful places that it's just I never imagined that so many people would see our passion, like you said, and be willing to invest in this mission that we have.
Well, when you need to harvest the honey for the one on top of the Shinola, I'll come with you, but can we also plant it around sunset so we can get the views?
Oh, our bees have some of the best views of the city, and that's what's so fun. And not only will we plant it around that time, then we'll go downstairs and have dinner. I mean, Chef Don down there at San Morello is amazing, and he uses some of the honey right in the menu. So that's what's been fun too. A lot of restaurants are starting to use our honey, and I mean, it doesn't get more local than that.
Brian Peterson, founder, Bees in the D. Anything maybe we didn't ask that you want to add before we say goodbye?
Yeah, there is one other thing I do want to share, because this is very important. We are coming upon what's known as swarm season. And swarm season is where beehives, or bees that run out of room in their hive, will actually split in half, about half, and they will form what's known as a swarm. And it's just this big ball of bees that are very docile. They're not dangerous. And if you see a swarm, your reaction, or your gut reaction, is, oh my gosh, I got to spray these bees. Don't spray, call right away, and we will send somebody out, or you can reach us on our website at beesinthed.com. We will come out, we will capture that swarm, and we will introduce them to a safe hive, and it can further our mission. So we're going to start to see swarms probably within the next few weeks, because we're a little ahead of schedule. Usually it's the beginning of May. So if you see that, just let us or another beekeeper know, because we want to make sure that those bees are healthy and stay alive and can do the pollinating that we need them to do.
Brian Peterson with us. What grade do you teach?
I teach 5th grade, and then I'm also an adjunct professor at Oakland University.
I want to take one of your classes.
Well, you're always welcome in my classroom once the pandemic, we can have guests. And then, of course, I do teach beekeeping workshops all day, where we actually go in the hives. They're kind of on hold like everything else, but you are always welcome. You know that.
Well, thank you. I will say, though, I'm not smarter than a 5th grader. So,
you know what? A lot of times I am not either. These 5th graders are amazing. I love working with 5th graders.
I bet you're such a fun teacher. Brian Peterson, we so appreciate your time. Thank you again for being with us. I always learn so much when you're on the show.
And I always love being with you, so thank you for having me again.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, but just a reminder before we go, beesinthed.com. So much information on their website, but also some of the products and where you can find them to help continue to support their mission and their nonprofit. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the president for the Kego Harbor Optimist Club. This is the Megacast.
In times like these, we have to believe in each other.
And we believe that you'll do the right thing
when it comes to stopping the spread of COVID.
Follow the 3 W's.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands. Watch your distance.
And when it's your turn to get the vaccine, take your shot.
It all comes down to the golden rule.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
We're so close, Michigan.
We can do this together.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping. Taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Great to have you with us on the Thursday edition of the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studio alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. You know, the pandemic has changed the way so many of us are living, but it has not stopped people from helping one another. And that includes the Kiko Harbor Optimist Club. We have several Optimist Clubs throughout the area, but I think a lot of people don't understand the great things they're doing for us right here in our local community. Let's bring in Bill Bertakis. He is the president for the Kiko Harbor Optimist Club. Bill, thank you for being with us.
Hi.
It's Bill Bertakis. I just pronounced your last name wrong.
Long A, yeah.
How are you doing?
Good.
You know, the funny thing is that Bill is everywhere. Anywhere you go, I constantly run into you in the most random places. You're also a photographer. You are one person who is entrenched in the local community.
It's a blessing and a curse.
How'd you become so passionate?
Well, it started in 2005 when they were doing a 50th anniversary of Kiko Harbor, and the police chief Watson said, you know who you need on this team? Bill Bertakis. And then I started meeting people from the Historical Society and the Optimist Club, and then the principal, Paul Lipson, said, listen, this is right up your alley. I didn't even know what the Optimist Club was. I thought it was something like a Dale Carnegie class, to tell you the truth, or somewhere where you can improve yourself. And then I didn't show up to a meeting one day, and I got voted president unanimous.
That'll teach you.
Yeah. So then I joined the West Bloomfield Club, and then I was president there too. And at one time I was president of both. It's very rare that you have two Optimist Clubs in the same school district, but it works out well because there's coverage throughout the whole school district. I mean, the West Bloomfield Club has their hands full just from the high school.
So with that, but with that, Bill, for those that aren't familiar with the work or the Optimist Club, like you said, you thought it was some type of self-improvement group. What exactly do you guys do?
Well, okay, first, we were chartered by the West Bloomfield Club in 1973. And it's an international organization, really big in Quebec. And it's about kids. And a lot of people might get it confused with the chamber because 90% of the members are business owners, self-business owners. But they're not there to promote their business. They're there to help kids. Now, some of the things that you have to do is oratorical and essay contests. You have to give scholarships. And then also with your membership, you have to use that seed money to help do fundraising. And also you have to be part of the community, do community events, support the community. And we do that. We're all in on the Wild Game Dinner for the Jacket Club. We're there for Easter and skate night and Christmas party for the city. We're very active in the Memorial Day parade, so we do those things. Then we have our own events, like we have pumpkin decorating, which like 200 kids attend, elementary kids, they do pumpkin decorating. We have a sort of a garage sale at the school parking lot. They call it community sale, but we're changing it to craft show, so we do that. And in the evenings, once a month, we have a little get together at Gino's, and we'll bring a guest speaker that was a F-16 pilot, an A-10 pilot. We'll do a little workshop with a 3D printer, and we'll pay for a pizza for everybody and salad. So for fundraising, we'll have a stakeout where we'll go skeet shooting and cook a steak. We did the Queen of Hearts, but a lot of stuff got on hold,
So let's talk more about that. What has the past year been like?
Well, thank goodness that everybody on our team is a money saver. And we, after being broke several times, we realized that we need to keep 3 years of money in the bank. So we cruised financially, no problem, through the pandemic. And we only lost one member through retirement, and we actually gained two. So that's good. A lot of clubs are falling apart. Our club's not so big on Zoom. We still meet in person. We did take maybe a month off, but we do still meet in person. And coming up this week is our oratorical contest at Our Lady of Refuge, where the 8th graders do. The difference between essay and oratorical. The essay, you write a paper. Oratorical, you got to come up there and speak. And they have the 5 finalists already, and they're going to acting school and drama school right now. And they do just a great job. That's going to be April 22nd. Like our stakeout, we had to put on hold. They don't have ammo. You can't have a buffet. So we're trying to do the best I can. We don't want to say no. That's the easy way out. We've got to just try to keep as optimists, think of something creative to the show must go on, and it's too easy to say no. But I try to talk to our club about, being an optimist and let's figure a way,
And that's so true with so many people. This past year is trying to find ways to adapt and to continue the work, even though it looks a lot different than what it did in previous years. What has been the benefit for some of the kids that have been on the receiving end of the great work that you all are doing?
Oh my goodness, our scholarship, you have to write a little bio. And a couple of years ago, we had a guy that scored a perfect score on the SAT. And Mr. Clark, that was a news guy.
Stephen Clark.
Stephen Clark. And the other guy got one wrong. So what's the matter? Had a bad day? But and I remember I would cry when I'd hear, I'm going to college, and I'm the first one in my family to go to college. And I look at the parents, and they're all nodding their head. And you just drop to your knees and cry. You had one guy that he wanted to be a pilot. And one lady wanted to be a hairdresser. And so we give money to trade schools as well. And so our scholarship, it's going to start this week. I'm going to put out an application. It'll be on SoKigo. It'll be on the Keego Harbor website. Now, when you go to these websites, it's actually West Bloomfield, Optimist of West Bloomfield, Optimist of Keego Harbor. So it'll be on that website. It'll be on SoKigo, the applications. We're sort of ending the due date while school's open for seniors because it's easier if the counselors are on them. Okay, there's another thing. Keego Harbor Optimists, when you say that, you're actually covering Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, the 3 cities. So since we have a conflict with West Bloomfield a little bit, to be eligible for the scholarship, you have to live or work in Keego, Sylvan, or Orchard Lake. Now, last year we didn't have enough applicants, so we opened it up a little bit.
Really? Not enough applicants? Do you think kids
just
didn't know?
The kids will not fill these out. The parents, it's not their money. The parents got to be on it. So I went up and down every street till I got car sick when I saw, there is a West Bloomfield graduate at this home. Mm-hmm. And I would stop and say, fill this out. We got money. We can't find enough people. Now, one guy was nice enough to say, I got money. Give it to somebody that needs it. And I get that a lot too. Okay, cool. But it happens,
Wow. So, we've talked with some of the school counselors in the past as well. So some of these students do research. Money is out there, yes, but you have to put in a little bit of work to try to be able to find that. Bill, Bill, I just can't talk. I need 2 coffees today.
Oh, no.
Hey, Mr. Bill, that's what they call me at elementary school.
So how is that going, by the way? Just so people know, you're not only the president for the Keiko Harbor Optimist Club, but you're involved over at Roosevelt Elementary as well, on top of trying to run your photography business.
Yeah, so what happened about 4 years ago, my cousin hired 2 4.0 students to work in the kitchen cabinet business. Big money in that. And none of them could read a tape measure. So I went over to the superintendent and I go, you got a 4.0 student that can't read a tape measure? Is that what you want? He goes, no. And so we went over to the HR guy, and the superintendent told him, is there something we can do about building the shop? He goes, yeah. I got this $5,000 grant. We can use it for the shop. And then right there, the principal of the elementary school walked in. He goes, hey, I got a room. We just cleared out. Would be perfect for that shop. And then the ball rolled. And there's Jerry right there. That he without him, the leadership from the top, it would have never happened. So we worked our way, and now the ball's rolling full steam. We're doing things way above the kids' years, and we won design prize at Lawrence Tech. I won trade school teacher of the year from some construction company that does that, and I'm really proud to say I'm a pre-K to 5 teacher, and the love you get from the students when they bring a birdhouse home. The parents come and thank me, even if they can't talk English. They're just thrilled that their child came home with some project that they did. And so now that I won this, and one of the jewelry stores gave me a credit card if anything I need. And now that I got money, I got good help. I have a very high-end professional shop, race car team retired person that helps me. And we're just doing wonderful things over there, soldering. We built the lending library, which was on your TV. We did a Pinewood Derby race that you splashed in. So if you write Roosevelt Pinewood Derby or Roosevelt Lending Library, you'll see the video. Mm-hmm. So I'm really proud of that. And I know I'm getting through the kids, because through this pandemic, they've been ringing my doorbell with treats.
See, they miss you.
Oh yeah, I tell them, how'd they know where I live? It goes, oh, they did investigation work, baby. And they would bring Pringles and Ritz crackers, make sure I had snacks, and but it's wonderful. And I try to keep that real nice, so it's the showcase of the school. So the principal's proud to bring somebody in there. And actually, Mr. Hill told me that because of the work there, that they're building a shop in the new middle school. That was a year ago. I hope it's still on the plan. And the school board said that they were considering hold the bus back when they trade them in and put workshops in them and travel to the elementary schools for a little work clinic. That was on consideration, both of those things. So I hope they follow through with it. I think, when we're working with fractions and decimals and reading tape measures, it's helping them in school. I mean, all my kids in first grade can convert fractions and decimals. They have to. They have to measure and get the right drill.
And it really does help, instead of doing it on a piece of paper, to apply it to these real life scenarios.
You give a kindergartner a tape measure and say, I have to order a new piece of tile. How big is that? And if they can start and finish it exactly and keep that tape measure straight, that's huge. They never seen numbers before, and we teach them little tricks how to measure the ceiling without a ladder. When you measure the floor, you have to put the head up. How you can measure sideways, not need another second person because it's got a hook. And reading those numbers is a great clinic for them of learning. I don't know, I just get a thrill out of it. I know I'm getting to them. I'm proud of them.
Well, you're definitely making a difference here in our community. Bill Pertakis with us here on the Megacast. He's the president for the Keiko Harbor Optimist Club, but also a volunteer. Almost kind of like a serial volunteer throughout here in the middle of Keiko Harbor. But Bill, before I get into how people can get involved in the Optimist Club, we know you're a photographer as well by trade. How is that side of your life going? Is business starting to pick up?
Well, actually, my let's say my last job was March 8th, and Easter was the first job I had. So a little over a year.
Wow.
Was the first job. I might have some Mother's Day, and I was sort of depressed. Nothing got postponed; it got canceled. So, things have changed. I used to do a lot of bar mitzvahs. Now it's golf outings, and like celebrities come in and they want a picture with the celebrity. So, my photography business is more printing on site where you can receive something right there. Green screen. I put the kids in the movie Frozen or put Spider-Man there or something. And so, I do everything, but mostly they call me because they need prints right there. There's somebody coming of celebrity status and they want to go home with a picture with them.
You are very creative with that. You were at my girlfriend's 40th birthday party, and the green screen, coming up with that's a game changer. That takes everything to a new level.
Well, it's a lot of fun. You take a picture. Where do you want to go? Hollywood, Paris, Cayman Islands, jail.
I'd much rather be in a virtual jail than a real jail.
No, the police line. I asked them, how high are you coming out of 7-Eleven? And I could scale it up there. But yeah, I forgot. That was sort of we did a quick 40th birthday. Is that the one you're talking about on Greer Road?
Yes.
Yeah, that was last minute thing. And, they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I go, oh, trust me, I got it. I got this. And they were thrilled.
It was so much fun. So with that too, Bill, because we know so many nonprofits right now are struggling because the typical fundraising events have not been able to be held this past year. So if people do want to get involved with the Optimist Club here in Keiko Harbor or to donate, how can they do that?
Well, it's sort of funny that we're forced into a transition of location and day. And, the place that we have breakfast, they're not open for breakfast anymore. And to come, we need a minimum of so many people and pay, and it's just not economically feasible. So Gino's opened his doors temporarily for us to have our meetings. The high school principal wants to attend, but he's busy Wednesday, and it's huge if the high school principal can attend once in a while, because you just say, what's going on there? And I think it's huge if he can show up. And but I guess if, like I said, you type Optimist of Keiko Harbor, it'll be the website. And I guess if you said contact, then that goes right to me if you write something. So like I said, we're just going through a transition. And I know that, like, let's say the Rotary Club, they've had to move like 3 times in 4 years just because things change, ownerships change, or and you always try to pick the best location at the best time that serves the most amount of people.
Yeah, it's always hard, though, with everyone's schedule. But, keep up the good work. Keep supporting the community. And we also want to remind the students, if you live in the community, Keiko Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, please check out to see if maybe you qualify for one of their scholarships. Bill, always great having you with us. Thank you so much. And we'll see you around Keiko because you're everywhere.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a blessing and a curse.
Again, it's Keiko Harbor Optimist Club. If you want to go ahead and find out some information, it's KeikoHarborOptimist.org is the website. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we are going to be joined by Dr. Hill, the superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Finally, I just got my COVID-19 vaccine.
I registered with my local health department and they called me.
I got mine at the pharmacy, and my neighbor got hers from the hospital.
I'm not a techie person, so I called the COVID hotline, and they helped me schedule an appointment.
Get vaccinated with the first vaccine you can. Protect us all.
Learn more at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Always great to have you with us here on the Megacast. As a reminder, you can always catch us Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can even tune us in to the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. My husband has one of those old school transistor radios. Mm-hmm. It's so annoying. But he, when he's out walking the dog, he takes it out and he listens to the ball games mostly. But I always like to remind him he can tune in our show on that old school radio. At least that's being used.
Yeah, I know.
Unlike so many of the other old electronics in our basement.
Yeah, anytime throughout the week, 1 o'clock p.m., 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock p.m., it's always back here on Lakes FM.
So with that, boy, this has been a tough couple of weeks. It's been a tough year for so many of the schools. But when the governor recently announced that she was recommending for the school districts to implement on their own a 2-week pause, there's so many mixed messages for the leaders of our school districts when these recommendations come from the governor. Let's bring in Dr. Gerald Hill. He's the superintendent for West Bloomfield School District. Doctor, when the governor, put that out in a press conference, what was your initial thoughts?
Well, Ronnie, that's an interesting characterization when you say mixed messages. When it came out in a press conference, that was the first the superintendents had heard about that recommendation from the governor. We had not been involved in any conversations with the health department, locally, the Oakland County Health Department, nor the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, nor the governor's office. So it caught all of the superintendents in Oakland County, especially by surprise. And we were a little disappointed that we didn't have a dialogue ahead of the announcement. Consequently, not many of us followed that recommendation, mostly due to the fact that we have been implementing our hybrid program in West Bloomfield, and we have our mitigation strategies, our social distancing, mask wearing, sanitation all in place. And so we felt pretty comfortable keeping that program going as we had been. With the governor's announcement, it seemed like it was a real quick one, and not much time to prepare families or staff or anything for that. So we decided just to maintain our safe operations that we have going on. The one caveat is that it was during spring break, and everybody knows that families were traveling because of COVID fatigue and all of those issues. And we saw on social media the activities of a lot of our families and students. And so we knew there might be a surge in the outbreak following spring break. And so that was a concern and is an ongoing concern.
And have you experienced many outbreaks within the district following spring break?
Mostly at the high school, and they're from students who either contacted COVID during spring break or subsequent to from their social gatherings and or family members. We have, as an example, we have approximately 27 students at the high school who are home with COVID. And then consequent to that, we have about 77 students that are in quarantine because they came in contact with COVID, either through a family member or a friend. And so we have approximately 100 of our high school students that are currently either quarantined or at home dealing with COVID.
This is so hard because I know that so many members of the staff over there are working countless hours to try to get the students back into the classrooms. Can it be frustrating when they are doing things outside of the classroom that jeopardizes all of your plans?
It can be, but I will say that staff are also in that same place. Several of them had contacted COVID from family members or social gatherings themselves. Not as many, but we've had. I think, Ronnie, it's a matter of people. Yes, we may be tired of all of the mitigation and social distancing and sanitation, but we need to keep in mind that that's what's been keeping us safe. I think people are letting their guard down, and unfortunately, a lot of the discussion around COVID has become a political discussion as opposed to a community health discussion, and I think that changes the context some as well.
We're talking with Dr. Gerald Hill. He's the superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. We also know that our state lawmakers did put money attached to school districts getting kids back into the classroom. So how would that be impacted if you do decide to close the schools?
Well, that's a good question. Our board grappled with that for a better part of a month. I think we spent about 9 hours in school board meetings having a conversation about the school aid fund money that the local state legislatures added to the federal Emergency CARES Act money. And in West Bloomfield, we stood to gain about $1.2 million had we been able to put together a program full-time face-to-face or 20 hours per week of face-to-face. And after examining several models, our board decided that we couldn't do that in all consciousness in a safe way. So we stayed with our current hybrid model. Consequently, we don't qualify, at least at this point in time, for that $1.2 million. And that's one of those mixed messages. So the governor signed that legislation saying that schools should strive for the 20 hours of face-to-face. Then at the same time, she says you should pause instruction at the high school. Well, what does that do to that 20-hour requirement? The other interesting thing is the state has determined that we should keep our high-stakes testing, M-STEP, in place, and that's going on this week, actually. And that was another factor. The recommendation to close schools sort of contradicts the requirement to offer the state exams. And then there was, well, you can take it later. Well, there's not that much of a year left. So it's very, I'll say chaotic in terms of the decision making that's happening at this point in time.
Yeah, sometimes I really wonder if the people at the top are even getting together to have some discussions when they're trying to go public with some of their recommendations and mandates. And it's tough, too. And, you know, I'm with you when it comes to standardized tests right now for students. We're still struggling to, just get them into the classroom. Is this really the right time to give them a standardized test?
Yeah, and it's interesting. We have to give the test, but we don't have to use the results for anything. So to me, it's taking time away from teaching and learning, the precious time that we do have, because there's nothing standard about the conditions. We have students at home, we have students going in hybrid, and from district to district, it varies. And so standardized test, the word standardized flies in the face of nothing is standard right now. And so I think it's better spending our time teachers doing assessments for learning. What do the students need to learn, where are they in terms of their unfinished learning, and use that type of assessment rather than a state mandated test.
So with that, Dr. Hill, how much of this miscommunication from our elected leaders in offices in Lansing fall on the shoulders of superintendents such as yourself, because you're just trying to navigate this world like the rest of us, but yet you're also the face of the district?
Yeah, there was a letter. I don't have a copy in front of me, but we wrote a letter to the governor with that same message that, we as superintendents have an expertise in the area of teaching and learning and managing educational organization. We do not have a public health degree. We're not epidemiologists. And if we are going to close schools, that decision for COVID and pandemic reasons, that decision should more properly come from the health department, Oakland County Health Department, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the governor's office. She has those resources at her disposal, and they can let us know rather than say each local school board and each local superintendent, you make the decision. And no matter what decision a local school board or superintendent makes, you're pretty much guaranteed that 50% of the people will disagree with it, no matter where you go with it. So. Right. So hard. How are the student athletes doing right now? Because I know that they put the additional mandated testing on them. How are they handling everything? Actually, under Eric Pierce, our athletic director, and the coaches, the testing of student athletes, although intensive, it's working. Every student athlete is tested once per week, and that's functioning. We have very little right now COVID cases on the athletic teams. And I was at a baseball game last night at the high school. There was a track meet going on at the same time. A lot of students out there. Of course, in baseball, it's outside. Track and field is outside. And for the most part, the students are socially distanced. Obviously, the distance between the catcher and the batter maybe is not exactly 6 feet, but it's outside. And they were playing and engaged in an activity that they were enjoying. And so far that is working okay. Indoor activities would be a little dicier, but spring is an outdoor pretty much season, so the activities are going well, actually. And let's hope Mother Nature starts to cooperate a little better than she is today, because if you're going to be outside in Michigan, we want to be warm. Yes, snowflakes make a baseball hard to see, I think. So. With that, right? Yeah, opening day. It was crazy. Oh, yeah. Dr. Gerald Hill with us here on the Megacast. He's the superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. So we do know that your district has also been managing the hybrid learning model. How is it going? It's going well. Our attendance is fairly good. One of the options we gave families coming back from spring break is if they didn't feel comfortable sending their children to school, they could keep them home as an excused absence. But our attendance has been good. Our teachers, they continue to they're dedicated and caring, and they're carrying on the lessons. So the hybrid program is going well. We're in the throes right now, Ronnie, of planning a summer school. One of the things that everybody's talking about in the education world is this concept called learning loss. And because of the difficulties in the various conditions that students and teachers are faced with. And I sort of have a different spin or take on the word learning loss. I would rather call it unfinished learning, because students are learning. And they may not be learning as measured by a state assessment, but they are learning nonetheless. But there are certain gaps that we know that are occurring. And so our summer program is going to be geared toward making learning fun and engaging, but addressing a lot of those learning gaps and completing a lot of the learning, particularly in our younger students, the learning to read and write and compute. So with that, when does registration start for that? Is it going to be hard? Do you anticipate, registration filling up quickly? We do, and it's going to start shortly, and all the information will be on our website. in our elementary program, we're doing for K to 4 a couple of different sessions. Session 1, the overall theme is be a Laker detective.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so we will. It'll be reading and writing and science and all that, but it's going to be with the detective theme. And then the second phase is be a Laker maker. And I know you had Bill Bertakis on ahead of me, and we're borrowing from that making kind of approach, if you will, where students they're going to apply their innovative thinking and they're going to create a design as a maker project. And then we're going to also be using Lego robotics, making obstacle courses and that type of thing for elementary. So it'll be a fun activity for the elementary students.
So I know that Bill did mention briefly about the new middle school. How's construction going?
It's going really well, and if you've driven by lately, you'll see that Orchard Lake Middle School is nearly gone. I'd say it's about 4/5 disappeared. They have some more foundation work to do, and I imagine the neighbors are getting a little bit annoyed with some of the noise and the dust, but that'll be over shortly. And so in a very short period of time, when somebody drives past the new middle school, they'll actually see, you can see it right now, it's looking fantastic. And when one goes inside, which I've been able to do, we're making tremendous progress on the inside as well.
I do like that it's at the same location. So when you see the demoed project in the front, you do see progress behind it. Because I know when my middle school was torn down, I go back and it's an empty lot and I get sad. It's like, oh, it's like you're missing something.
Like one of those shows on HGTV where you have the unveiling. There's the picture of the old house in front and they wheel it aside and there's the new.
Yes.
Well, this is, instead of wheeling it aside, we're tearing down the old and behind is the new. So it's a dramatic look.
With us, Dr. Gerald Hill, Superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. And Doctor, before you go, we do want to bring up Deanna Bear. She was a longtime friend for us here on the Megacast. We've had her on several times. She's been a champion for the students of West Bloomfield. And I know you can't talk a lot about the case against her, but what message do you want to get to the parents?
Oh, yeah, it was very unfortunate. Ms. Barish resigned in March. She has a personal legal issue that she is dealing with from her previous employment, and it's very unfortunate what she's going through. What we're doing in West Bloomfield is we have a position posted, Assistant Superintendent for Learning Services, and that's posted. We intend to fill that position by July 1st. We haven't interviewed anybody, it's just been posted. It's a real critical position in our school district. Our teaching and learning team, they're the ones that are right now, they're doing a tremendous amount of work on the summer school. They're doing a tremendous amount of work on assessment, and our Assistant Superintendent for Talent Development and Management, Eric Whitney, he's wearing 2 hats now, which is a tremendous amount of responsibility. I'm a little more involved in the curriculum and instruction aspects. So we're gonna come out okay, and I just wish Ms. Barish the best in what she's dealing with right now. And as a school district, we feel confident that we will have a person in place by summer and move forward from there.
Dr. Gerald Hill with us, Superintendent for the West Bloomfield School District. As always, we appreciate your time today. We're going to wrap it up for the Thursday edition of the Megacast. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m.